So these are usually missed because of that. They're small, they're tiny. Even the markings, many times people can't read or don't understand what they say, and that's why we do so well in these. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to look at some items I pick up fairly regularly, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Native American pottery pieces here. Here's two examples. This one here is Sioux pottery. It's well marked. It's marked by the artist who actually rendered it. Very nice example as well. And this one is Zuni, and this one is signed, as you can see here as well. Nicely carved, hand painted, which is typical on these. Now, these are small. They're not like super old. When I go to a thrift store or something, usually they're like 50 cents or $1. Sometimes they're in dump bins, especially these ones here. People just don't think much of them. Sometimes it may just say Sioux pottery. Sometimes there may just be a name signed on the bottom. Now, these vary in price. Some of these can range from, say, $8-10 all the way up to $200 or $300. The only difference, the only difference I see in these is the name on the bottom, because the Sioux pottery that we run into all seems to look fairly the same. It's a stylized pottery that's all done in the same style. Same thing goes for the Zuni pottery. Same basic thing I see. It's just the name on the bottom. That can dictate the value solely. Since they're small like this, most people just usually pass these up thinking there's not going to be a ton of money. There isn't a ton of money, but again, you pay 50 cents or $1, you get 20 to 30 bucks a piece for them. That's a pretty good return on your investment. We'll look at just a few just to give you an idea here. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you a whole different item that we do extremely well in also. Now, we're in Terapeak and we're just looking up Zuni pottery. I just want to give you some basic examples on this. Now, obviously, the earlier, the more valuable it usually is. Now, there is some issues with legality on some of these sorts. You'd have to have provenance. You'd have to have a chain of custody with some of these to not possibly get into some trouble. Some states like Georgia have some laws about even transporting stuff across state lines and all kinds of other things with these sorts of items. So I'm always extremely cautious. The ones I showed you, though, are modern day age. They're more along the lines of tourist items. They're signed on the bottom with a verified name of someone who is recognized. So I don't have to worry about anything. They're legit, they're signed, they're real. The only thing you want to watch out is make sure you word the title just as it says on the bottom. Don't embellish, don't add words or anything else like that to it. Now, if you dig through here, you're going to see the prices all over the place. Again, for some of the earlier ones, but as you get into the more modern day age, which is the one that I showed you, the prices fluctuate and they do drop down. There's many different varieties, versions, and styles. Many of the Zuni pottery that we run into do not even look like Native American pottery for the most part. So you've really got to pay attention to what's written, how it's written on the bottom, as well as the uniqueness, the style of the piece in general. Now, the value, as I said, goes by who is the artist itself. Earlier ones may not have an artist, but a lot of the newer ones, the smaller size like the ones I showed you, are signed. And they are missed, again, because of the size. Most people don't assume those little tiny vases, and pottery pieces like that sell for very much money. They're only 3 inches tall in that average range there. But when you look through here again, you're going to see a lot selling, even at that size, even in that same style, even with some of the same signatures. They sell for, 30 to 40 bucks, 50 bucks quite often. You just have to do your due diligence to research them the best you can. You need to get a good title. You need to list every detail that you can think of as well. Now, I also looked up Sioux pottery, again, just to give you an idea. Now, the first piece is just a Sioux Native American, but it's a rookwood vase, so that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. Next one is North Dakota School of Mines, so again, that does not relate to what we're talking about here. Pine Ridge Sioux is one of the most expensive lines on here. if you spend some time looking through here, you're going to see a lot of nice examples here. It's still all in the same style of pottery as the vase that I showed you. These are just a lot larger. They're full-size pitchers and vases and things along that line. Now here's one that's very similar to the one that I showed you here, but by someone else. So again, it depends on who actually is the artist in it. This one's by Olive Cartier, and this is again one of the leading artists in here. You may not even find the artist that you have, which may mean that it's harder to come by, and the prices may be worth more than the ones we are showing you as well. The Sioux pottery vase I showed you is by someone who is listed, but I can't find any sold examples, so it is possible, just because of the artist on the vase itself, that I could get 120, 140, even 200 plus bucks, again, if it's the right person. So keep your eye out for these. These types of items show up fairly regularly. The small ones. I'm not talking about the 120, 140-year-old vases and things from Native American tribes that you have to have documentation, that have to be authenticated, that have all the other stuff with it. These small, tiny ones that are missed all the time do make us a steady amount of decent income when we sell them. Now let me just give you a couple close examples here to show you the vast difference in pricing. Now here's a vase right here. This one sold for around 20 bucks. It's a nice one. It has basically the same pattern style that the one that I showed you had. It has a name on the bottom. It's signed. It has the Sioux pottery statement on it as well. This one sold cheap, plus $10 shipping. Now here's one in the same basic shape with the same basic style again as I have. Now this one's signed differently with a different artist's name on it, and this one sold for over $400. These are both small. They're both constructed the same way. They're both Sioux pottery, but varying prices will be determined by the actual signature on the bottom. Some artists made very few. Some artists were far better and knew their art trade better than anybody else, and their stuff is far superior to many other ones. That's where the price comes into play here. This piece is phenomenal. You don't see any issues. There's no blemishes. It's a perfect finish. It's not out of shape. It's just perfectly done, perfectly glazed, nicely marked, hence why it went for right at 450 bucks. Now we did pick up this one here. This is the 5th one of these that we have purchased to resell. Usually it's $1 or $2. Last one I sold for $34.50 plus shipping. We've sold this one as high as 50 bucks. Now this is guitar music. It has a list of all the songs on the back here. So it has a guitar tab on it as well as all the lyrics. So these do extremely well. Originally this was 25 bucks. I'm not really even sure on the age on this one, but this is one that shows up fairly frequently. This one's from '93. So this one's a vintage one, I would say, as well. It's almost 30 years old, hence why it sells for decent money. Any of these songbooks like this, we have done phenomenally well. Now, we had an Elton John one that sells for around 75. This is just another example of those exact same things. Sheet music books do extremely, extremely well. But anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
He hangs pictures, helps Grandpa experiment, helps Mommy with the cleaning. Where does he get his go? From me. I lend him my Cheerios. Daddy says they're the greatest thing since bat wings. Mommy says they give him protein and stuff. Give your father some go. And he might play catch with you.
Big G, little O. Go with Cheerios.